Good evening, Chair Gould, Vice Chair Tice, school board members, community members, and guests and parents. We're glad you're here this evening. I only present from the podium once a year, and it's always on the budget. And I think it's indicative of the importance of a budget to be able to step away from the dais and to be able to talk about our budget. So thank you first and foremost for the opportunity this evening to be able to share this year's superintendent's proposed FY26 proposed budget. Before I start the presentation, though, I would like to thank a few people that have been absolutely instrumental in the development of this budget. And the first is our Chief Operating Officer, Kristen Michael. Thank you, Kristen, for your incredible work. And also Michelle Kopic, our Budget Director, who also have both burned sort of the midnight oil, making sure that we have a really good budget to bring you. And I'm pleased to say tonight that we have what I think is a good budget to bring you. I was a little bit nervous leading up to this evening, but through the really extraordinary work of Ms. Michael and Ms. Kopic, we've been able to navigate and negotiate our way through this budget. I also want to take a second to recognize our principals and our directors that are in the room. It is always nice to have folks that are here to support this work and the rest of the leadership team as well. This budget was not done in isolation. This budget was done in combination and in collaboration with our leadership team, our principals, our directors, our teachers, and paraprofessionals, and many of our folks within each of the departments as well. So what I'm preparing, or what we've prepared for you this evening, really is a broad-based, well-vetted budget through the system. So I'm going to try to slow down a little bit tonight. And part of the reason that I want to slow down is I'm reminded in some ways of what a budget is. And what a budget is a budget really is a story. And when I consider our story here in the City of Falls Church, I am sort of reminded of one of my favorite movies, and that is Field of Dreams. And that is the movie for me that comes to mind. And the line in the movie that I think really resonates for me is, if you build it, they will come. So in the movie, in case you're not familiar, there is a farm in Iowa where a farmer builds a beautiful baseball field, and the ghosts of baseball legends come. People like Shoeless Joe Jackson. We've got the Chicago Black Sox as the example. And so how does that relate to Falls Church City Public Schools, or Falls Church City in and of itself? We have built something very special here in the City of Falls Church through an incredible partnership between the school board and the city council, through the development that has come in, and through the extraordinary work of the staff on our schools. And like Ray Kinsella, who's played by Kevin Costner in the movie, I couldn't be more excited to be part of this Field of Dreams. We knew that all of this development was going to happen. We were prepared for it. We have great facilities. And now, as the story continues, we have a need to fund what happens in our buildings to continue the legacy of our Field of Dreams here in the City of Falls Church. So what this budget is a no-frills budget. It's a kind of keep the lights on budget. It pays our great staff. It helps them be retained. It helps us to hire staff to accommodate our growing population, and is truly what I would consider a needs-based budget. What it is not tonight, like perhaps we've had in the past, is a budget that expands programs, that grows programs, or is in any way additive to our system. In fact, this budget is really lean and is meant truly to meet the very fundamental requirements of the superintendent, which is to prepare and to present a needs-based budget. So thank you for your continued support of our schools and your relationship with the City Council. For the last 6 years, as I've previewed before, we have met the spirit of the revenue sharing agreement or handshake agreement that we've developed between the superintendent and the city manager, the city council, and the school board. But as I stood here last year and presented this school budget, I did share that I was worried. I was worried about this year, kind of coming up, because I knew that it was going to be challenging for us with the growth in the city to be able to stay within the revenue sharing agreement. And this year's request, just to put it out there as plainly as I possibly can, exceeds the amount needed through the revenue share. But the good news is that we are relatively close. It's a really small amount in the grand scheme of things and represents what would be considered a half cent on the tax rate. This is remarkably better than we anticipated in the December meeting, as many of you know. And part of that is because state revenue has come in better than we expected. We made some decisions last year, along with the school board, and you should be very proud of the work that you've done to reserve some of the state funding that we received last year, to pour it forward into this year without spending it, so we could get a running start, if you will, on this year's budget, knowing it would be tough. And there are some additional salary laps that we've been able to achieve this year. And so all of this to say is that I'm presenting to you a needs-based budget that is very close to guidance. Guidance was 5.9%. When you look at the amount necessary for us to fund our needs-based budget, the final percentage needed from the general government and city council would be 6.3%. So when we think about our team, right? This is our dream team of leaders here in our field of dreams. And I want to take just a second to thank all of you on the school board and thank our council. For the last 6 years, I'm sorry to say to our paper man friend in the room, we've had some pretty boring budgets. We've met the guidance, and this year I would like it to be just as boring as it's been in the past. But this is, in some ways, sort of an inflection point for the City of Falls Church Schools. We believe that this is a one-year issue for us to sort of work through with our colleagues on the City Council and with our colleagues on the general government. And in the end, I would say that I am committed, just like all of you, to continue the revenue sharing agreement that's been in place because it's predictable, it's non-confrontational, and it's easy to understand. We are very special in many ways in the City of Falls Church because of the extraordinary relationship between the school board and the city council. You do a great job of not making each other look bad, and together we're always able to find ways to fund the schools and also fund the city. And I think this year is no different. So speaking of dreamy, we have together built an incredible field of dreams here in the City of Falls Church as a school district. These are niche rankings, so take them for what they were worth. They are rankings that people look at when it comes to buying real estate and investing in our community. But again, for the 6th year in a row, Falls Church City Public Schools has been named the #1 school division in Virginia. We've also been named the #2 school district in the greater DC area, and in Virginia, we're the 3rd best place to teach. And last year, or 2 years ago, we're very fortunate to have gotten an award from the Washington Post about, again, being a really awesome place to come and work. And we have the very best teachers because of that. Some of the highlights around the work that we do are always affiliated with the International Baccalaureate Program. And what you'll see here tonight on the screen are some of those highlights that we're starting to engage in again this year. Many of us that are presenting tonight or that are sitting around the room have PYP groups, exhibition groups that we're working with on a routine basis to prepare them for their exhibitions. We have our MYP students that are working on their projects. Our seniors are working on their CAS and their extended essays, right?
We're done.
Hey, we're done. Awesome. So we've got a lot of things happening relative to the International Baccalaureate Program and the continuum highlights, and it really does speak in many ways to who we are. Just to share a little bit more detail about our work, this past year, 276 students took IB exams. There were 941 exams written for IB, which is extraordinary, in 35 subjects. We had a 92% pass rate, and last year we had 64 IB diploma candidates, and of those 64, 59 of those students passed and earned the IB diploma. This year, by contrast, we have 74, 10 more students that are IB diploma candidates, and hopefully we will have the same success rate as we've had in the past. Those numbers are extraordinary and represent the high water mark for the City of Falls Church schools. And that is not to suggest that an IB diploma is the be-all and the end-all in any way, but it is a marker of great success for many of our students who have truly engaged at the deepest and most rigorous level that we have to offer. So in terms of accreditation highlights, you've seen these before. I won't go through them all, but all of our numbers with respect to accreditation are over 90% relative to the SOL scores. We had 8% increase over last year at Oak Street Elementary in science, which was great. And at Mary Ellen Henderson, our math reporting groups, 9 out of the 9 reporting categories remained at or above, well, at 100%. So we're very proud of that. So what is our North Star as a division? We have 2 slides in here about the strategic plan. And simply they're there just to remind the board that we are in the 3rd year of our 5-year strategic plan. We've been making incredible gains on much of the work that's in there. And I would invite anyone who's listening tonight to go to the website, look up strategic plan, and you can see for yourself some of the things that we've been doing that have been pretty amazing. So when we look at the 5 areas of emphasis, these are the 5 areas of emphasis: IB teaching and learning, wellness, equity, and belonging, resource management and improvement, communication and engagement, and investing in our people. These 5 categories are extraordinarily important in the budget process because everything that you'll find in this budget has been aligned to our strategic plan. That is not just a hallmark or a feature of our budget, it's actually a requirement of our budget. And when our staff come forward with actions that they need money for, we always ask them, how does this tie to our strategic focus? So I want to thank, again, our principals that are in the room and our directors in the room, because each of them held meetings with their respective staff in October, starting in October, to allow for input across the entire division about our school budget. Which takes us to enrollment. So let's talk a little bit about enrollment. We are, again, I shared earlier, we're at a high water mark for International Baccalaureate Diploma candidates this year, but we're also at a high water mark for enrollment in Falls Church City Public Schools. On November 30th, the enrollment was 2,713. That exceeded our previous high water mark of earlier in the 2017-18 school year of 2,698. Again, we knew these kids were coming. We are so excited to have them. We have the infrastructure necessary to serve these students that we're receiving, but what we are asking for tonight are the resources to meet the growing population and its needs. So when we talk about needs, what I'm sharing with you tonight are a number of different service groups that we attend to that are important to think about. So what you'll see here tonight are in the top 4 categories are economically disadvantaged students. These are students that are traditionally on free and reduced lunch. We have students with disabilities, students with and those are students that have been identified with an IEP or an individual education plan. A student with a 504 plan, so meaning that a student may have some form of disability, but it doesn't rise to the level of needing an IEP. And then our English speakers of other languages. These are our ESOL students. The reason that I'm sharing these with you is if you look at the column from change to from the prior year, you will see a positive growth in all 4 of those reporting categories of economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, 504, and ESOL. And in sheer numbers, what we are looking at is a higher and greater need in our system because we have more diverse learners that necessitate additional services, and the reason that we're pointing this out is because of the additional staffing that is also required to meet the needs of our diverse groups of students. So where do we get our numbers for projections? Everyone in this room and hopefully at home is familiar with the Weldon Cooper Center. This is the University of Virginia Center where they look at demographics. The Weldon Cooper Center has been a great stalwart for the City of Falls Church for many, many years. And that was prior to when we started to expand some of our housing stock and some of our housing development here in the city. And the reason that they were good up to that point is that Weldon Cooper looks at two things. They look at birth rates and they look at grade progressions from one grade to the other. They do not take into account the development that's happening in the City of Falls Church. So 2 years ago, we were fortunate enough to partner with the general government, and we hired together the Stephen Fuller Institute. And they began to develop a projection methodology that has been very successful for us. It's a much better solution given the renaissance that truly is happening in the City of Falls Church. So working alongside Stephen Fuller Institute, having them dig into what's happening in the City of Falls Church relative to the work and development, we have some very good, a much better idea of what we can expect when it comes to our student population coming out of the housing developments. So speaking of housing developments, these are the four big ones that we are really looking at and paying attention to, because this is where we're going to see some yields of students. The first is Founders Row. And Founders Row has opened and has completely stabilized at this point, meaning that it is almost at 100% occupancy, and we know how many students are going to be coming out of there. And now that we have pretty much full occupancy at Founders Row 1, and knowing that we have students that are coming out of there, that number is going to stay fairly static over time, give or take, a certain percentage of students. However, there are three other housing developments that are continuing to be built. And the first is the West Falls Church site up at the high school. This is the big kahuna, if you will. And this is going to, has opened Q3, Q4 of 2024, and it does look like it's going to stabilize in the winter of this year. So in December, January, we should have a pretty good sense of the number of kids that will be coming out of there that should remain fairly static over the course of the life cycle of those buildings. The development at Broad in Washington opened in June of 2024, and it is starting to fill up, and we anticipate that that will stabilize this summer. So we should have a pretty good sense of how many students are coming out of there in the long term as well. And lastly, Founders Row 2 is going to successfully open, we hope, in September of 2025, with a stabilization in the spring of 2027. So we are not home yet, if you will, in that we know that there are still folks that are moving into the city, folks that are going to be filling the West Falls, the Broad and Washington project, and the Founders Row 2. So we have to use our best information to determine what are the generation rates based on the housing types that we're seeing. So these numbers come from Stephen Fuller Institute, and I'll just call your attention to the last column in the upper right quadrant. So if you look at 2025, these are enrollment rates for the Falls Church housing projects and homes for 2024. SFD stands for single family dwelling, and we know that single family dwellings that are going up right now are yielding a 0.7, which means that for every every 4 units, you're going to end up getting 2 students out of each of those 4 single-family homes. And relative to the condos and the apartments, each condo yields about a 0.25 student, meaning every 4 condos that are developed, we will get one student out of that, every condo and apartment. And then townhomes will be yielding 0.38. So for every 3 townhomes or so, we should anticipate 1 student. So we took all of that into account, and Stephen Fuller Institute gave us a really great sense of what our numbers are going to look like going forward. So here is the enrollment forecast in a line graph for you. There are 3 lines that I want to just sort of call your attention to. The first is the blue line that says 2714. That is the Weldon Cooper number that does not take into account any of the new development here in the city. The yellow line is 2,873, which takes into account all of the development that's happening and uses those yield ratios to determine how many students we should expect. And then the gray line represents pre-pandemic growth conditions in combination with the new development. So were we to continue growing at the same rate we were growing pre-pandemic with all of the new construction coming online, we should anticipate really close to 3,000 students for next year. However, because the pandemic happened, we did see some decline in the city. We saw some decline in the schools. We haven't returned to the same growth rate as previous to the pandemic, but we are growing quickly. So we are using the Stephen Fuller Institute number as our watermark, if you will, or our waypoint for 2025, and are anticipating 2,873 students. So when you look at this chart, and these are all online, all of these materials will be online so anyone can look at them. We again, if you look at 2025, which is the second year column from the left, you will see by grade level the total of 2,873. And that is what we're expecting for next year's class. So what does that look like by grade level? And here you will see it by grade level. This chart can get a little bit confusing and a little bit complicating. Simply because it's also a grade progression chart. So you might look at this and go, well, why are we losing 21 students at Oak Street in third grade? And the reason that we would be losing 21 students in third grade at Oak Street in third grade is because the second grade was smaller than the current third grade. So the smaller second grade progresses to third grade, the bigger third grade moves on to fourth grade. But the number that's really important on this slide is in the bottom right-hand corner. And that is the 159. This is the number of additional students that we are anticipating will be in Falls Church next year. I want to try to provide an example that might make it a little bit more understandable for those folks that might be watching at home. So what does 159 students mean to the City of Falls Church schools? 159 students is just like having another grade level in our school division. So if you look at our FY25 actuals at Mount Daniel, and you will go across to FY25 actual, you'll see that this year we had 159 kindergartners. We have 7 teachers in kindergarten teaching those 159 students. So if we add another 159 students to our population, we need additional resources, particularly in teachers and staff, to be able to meet the needs of our students that are coming in. So if we were not to add any more students, it would be like teaching a 13th or 14th grade level in our division with the same number of teachers. So in the budget, what you'll see and hear tonight is an equivalent to that level of staffing for instruction. But adding kids is more than just adding teachers, right? I think everybody here understands that. We also need to add bus services, we need to add bus aides, we need to add materials, we need to add counselors, specialists, et cetera, to ensure that our field of dreams remains dreamy. So when we look at it by school, here is where we're seeing where our school populations look like they're going to shake out, because the 159 kids don't actually all come in one nice, neat grade level. They do get across all of the grades. And so what you'll see is that Mount Daniel is going to grow by about 52 students. Oak Street is going to lose about 18 students. Henderson is going to grow by 55, and the high school is going to grow by 66. So the largest amount of population growth that we're going to see this coming year actually will be on the secondary campus. So hopefully that sets the stage for kind of where we're headed, respective of our budget. So let's move on to the proposed budget revenue. And this is where the picture actually gets a little bit better than we anticipated it was going to be. So the guidance from the Falls Church City Council earlier this year was that they would like to reduce the tax rate, hold it steady, or increase the tax rate. So there was sort of a wide swath of options that the City Council provided. And through the budget process that we're going through right now, they endeavor, like we do, to determine what the needs are and fund those needs appropriately. And so through the great conversations that you all have had with your council partners, and we have already had with our general government partners, we're confident that this budget is imminently doable. So the 2025 guidance that we received this year in December from the general government and the city council was looking at our tax growth revenue, looking at a 5.9% increase year over year, which equates to $5.9 million additional dollars that ultimately is split twice, once by the general government and once by the schools, meaning that the schools' portion of that revenue share would be $2.9 million. When we look at the needs-based budget that we actually have a need in this budget that I'm going to share with you this evening of an additional $3.3 million. So there is a delta there of less than $400,000. That's about how close we are, and I'll share that as we move along. So here's some of the good news. The good news is that last year, as I mentioned earlier, this board made a really good decision, and that was to set aside the FY25 state funding that came late. You might remember that the state legislature needed to go into special session to pass their budget. They did. We got state funding after the budget for the schools had been adopted, and therefore, when the state funding came in, we'd met our obligations, and we said, before we spend any of that money, let's take a pause, let's put it aside, and let's get ready for next year. So we received $545,000 from the state last year. We did spend a little bit of it, but that is additional funding that's available to us in this year's budget. Additionally, based on the governor's budget that came out on December 18th, we are going to see an increase in sales tax by $289,000 and an increase in state aid and in sales tax of $535,000. So when you take all of that into combination, we're looking at about a $1.2 million amount of money that would come from the state that's available for us to use in this year's budget. And of that, about $800,000 is in new money from this year's state budget. So that is more than we anticipated, and we're very excited and very pleased with that. Some other revenues to kind of consider, and just as a reminder to the board and to the community, there are really three places that we get money. First is from our locality, the second is from the state, and the third is from our federal government. So you'll see here in terms of federal revenue, we are anticipating a cut in federal revenue of a small amount, $1,799. However, when you go back to that slide that I was sharing about the students with disabilities, students with 504s, our ESOL students, and our students in poverty, many of those title programs are specifically designed through the federal government to pay for services for those students. The reason that it's not showing up in this year's budget is because the federal government works a year behind. So they are not looking forward like we are prospectively about what we're expecting, but they will take our numbers from this year and fund next year's budget based on this year's numbers. So they're always 1 year behind in terms of the federal dollars coming in. So when we look at the overall revenue picture, what you'll see here is a very nice handy-dandy pie chart that shows that 80.3% of our FCCPS budget we are asking come from the local government, 16% comes from the state, 1% comes from the federal government. We have some fees and other services, and then we also have some beginning balance that we put into the budget each year. Of note, and I think this is an important thing to sort of get our heads around a little bit, because we've talked about diversifying our budget just a little bit. This is the first time that I'm aware of that actually the city portion of the funding for the school's budget is less than what it's been in the past. So you'll see last year, for example, the general government's and city council's portion of our budget was 80.9%. This year we're looking at 80.3%. And the reason that that number has dropped a little bit is because our state revenues have gone up. So the pie has just shifted a little bit more towards the state revenue. So what do we anticipate we're going to spend our additional funds on? So let me start with what we're calling contractual obligations. And let me just say this. Yes, we have a collective bargaining agreement in place with our teachers and with our support staff, but that CBA does not drive in any way our budget discussions that we've had internally. And the reason for that is because for the past 6 years, it hasn't mattered. We've worked diligently on behalf of our employees to make sure that we're compensating them appropriately through a step and through a cost of living adjustment. It is incumbent upon us, I believe, to compensate our excellent staff, to ensure that we can recruit the best, we can retain the best that are out there. And this budget represents a full step for all of our employees, plus a 2.5% COLA for all employees. In the end, I believe that this amount of compensation increase, which is roughly 5% for everyone, will ultimately be sort of the middle of the pack in the region and in surrounding jurisdictions. But the good news is that this board, or many on this board, a couple of years ago, did a comprehensive salary study. And through that salary study, we were able to make some adjustments a couple of years ago that put us on really good footing. So we still feel like even with the 5% increase with the STEP and the COLA, we are going to be in good stead when it comes to recruitment and retaining our excellent staff. Which then leads us to our next big sort of pot, if you will, of expenditures, and that is enrollment growth. We are anticipating that we need to spend about $1.1 million to meet the enrollment growth. And some of the highlights that you'll see around the ring here are 4.5 additional general ed classroom teachers, 1 additional special education teacher, an additional paraprofessional, a primary years program coordinator, which I'll talk about in just a second, an additional school counselor, half-time athletic director, which I'll also talk about in just a second, a parent resource and engagement specialist for Mount Daniel to serve our students whose home language is other than English. Looking at adding an additional 2 bus driver aides, an additional bus driver, and then supplies. We have a defined pot of supplies, and as more students come in, that pot only goes so far, so we need to widen the pot to allow for all of our students to have access to both instructional supplies and athletic materials and supplies. So let me just take a second to talk about a couple of things that are up here that I've gotten some questions about, and you may also have gotten some questions about. And the first is the assistant athletic director. We have more students participating in athletics and activities than we've ever had at Meridian High School and at Mary Ellen Henderson, because we do allow our 8th graders to participate in clubs and activities and in many of our sports as well. The money that's in this budget, which is $65,000, really represents the amount needed to make a full-time assistant director of student activities at the high school. Right now, that DSA, our director of student activities, is supported sort of by committee. There are a couple of people that come in and support that person who are paid, and then if we were to take those funds that are currently being used for those folks that are doing it by committee and cobble it together with the $65,000 additional here, we have enough to afford a 1.0 assistant director of student activities. That would put 2 full-time people in that office and would really help, I think, sort of stabilize, not that it's destabilized now, but really help us sort of moving forward, particularly as we move into getting a new director of student activities at the high school into the future. The PYP coordination position, this is the only position that is sort of an expansion that is in the budget, because the ADSA position is kind of there and it's kind of cobbled together. This IB coordinator position at the primary years really comes out of our IB reauthorization visitation that we had a couple of years ago. When we had the visitation, there was a recommendation from IB that we consider adding a second elementary IB PYP coordinator. The reason for that is that we added, as part of our process, Jessie Thackeray Preschool to the IB to fill out the continuum. So we really are pre-K through 12. So that person, and I'll name her, it's Lauren Carpel. She's pretty amazing. And she goes from Jessie Thackeray Preschool to Mount Daniel to Oak Street and sees over 1,000 students throughout her week. This job is simply untenable for one person. As I stated earlier in the presentation, one of the things that is our North Star is our strategic plan. And in our strategic plan is IB teaching and learning. So when I think back to tying some of the requests that we have in our budget to our strategic plan, I think about this position really speaking to our identity of who we are as a school division. And this would not be done lightly. I believe that this would be the final investment at the school level for supporting our IB program. It would put 2 at the elementary. We have our middle school PYP or middle school MYP coordinator, and we have a DP coordinator. This is now the 3rd year that this position actually is on the docket. And if not for and I'll just sort of put it out there, if not for the 1 cent reduction that we took last year, this was the position that we were going to fund with that 1 cent reduction that we ended up taking last year. And that came through a very broad conversation with our staff. So it's made its way back in again. Which leads us to current obligations. These are essentially maintenance of effort kinds of positions that we have in place that I'm suggesting that we maintain. There are a couple in here that I think are really important. Well, I think they're all important, but a couple that I want to call out. Specifically, the ESOL teaching position. We are growing in ESOL. That position is currently funded through one-time funds. We would like to make that position a permanent position. This would do that. Additionally, we do have an advanced academic coordinator that's part-time that takes a ton off the plate of our advanced academic teachers to the extent that that person is doing a lot of the testing, a lot of the identification work that allows those advanced academic teachers to be working directly with kids. And then lastly, the position of legal services that's in here. I do not want to in any way diminish our incredible Miss Minson, but she has an incredible amount of work when it comes to contracts, FOIA, FERPA, easements. It's just too much for one person. So by adding this part-time position would really allow Ms. Minson to continue to do her really great work. And we are currently paying for these positions. Again, this is a maintenance of effort. It would make that legal position more permanent and just still part-time. So those are the things that we would like to spend our money on. That being said, we also want to take a minute and just say that we did our part as well. We didn't just take the extra and spend, right? We really felt like it was important for us to take some reductions and look at where we could have some savings as well. So the first place that we have found some savings is in salary lapse. And salary lapse, just to remind everyone, is turnover in salary. So for example, if we have a teacher who's been with us for 30 years and is at the top of the scale and has a master's degree, they're going to make X number of dollars. When that person retires and we bring somebody new in, and let's just say we hire somebody that has 5 years experience in a master's, there's a delta between those two salaries. When that delta happens, that money is recaptured into our budget, and we're able to use that for recurring purposes, and it's called salary lapse. And over the course of the last year, we've actually gained some salary lapse that has been rather significant. So we are looking at about $544,000 in additional salary lapse that we can pour back into the budget to help meet and offset some of the costs of the things that I've discussed earlier. Additionally, we are looking at redesigning our summer school program. And I want to assure everyone on this board and that may be listening at home tonight that there are a couple of things that will absolutely stay. One is our extended school year. Because it's part of an IEP, because it's part of students' IEPs, we will absolutely continue to do ESY, or our extended school year, for our students that need it as part of their IEP. Additionally, we are absolutely committed to meeting the relatively small number of students that need intervention during the summer. We're just looking at finding a way to do it and see this as an opportunity to do it in a much more effective and a much more efficient way than we've done it in the past. And lastly, we want to make sure that everyone understands that students that are at the high school that are doing credit recovery and credit extension through our High C program will still have that opportunity. So when we look at the numbers of students that we served through our summer school program last year, across the entire division, we have about 156 students that needed intervention throughout the summer. So our really great instructional team, along with some school-based folks, are looking at ways that we will be able to redesign and support those students in need in a very different way that actually we believe will be much more effective and much more efficient. And then lastly, in terms of reductions, we are seeing a reduction in the cost to provide the transitional retirement program. This is a legacy retirement program that's been in place for a very long time that was meant to incentivize people to retire many moons ago, and we're seeing those people starting to come off the rolls. So our commitment, our financial obligation to that retirement program is dropping by $20,000. So when we look at all of those reductions together, it's about a $683,000 additional amount that we can pour into the budget. So when you look at our proposed budget, what you'll see is our contract obligations, our enrollment growth, our current obligations minus the reductions is $4.6 million. And not surprisingly, that matches exactly the amount that we have available to us to spend. So where are we spending our money? This is one of my favorite slides every year, and it's one of my favorites because it really speaks to who we are as a school division. We currently spend 85.4% of our budget in employee compensation. That means that we're putting the vast majority of our money that we have available to us into our people. Additionally, we do have to spend money on utilities, insurance, and travel, and the like. Capital replacements and transfers are also available to us as part of the expenditures, but the vast majority of our money does go into people. So knowing that we are exceeding the revenue sharing agreement by $347,000, there are a couple of places that we feel like it was important for us to preview for you of where we would go should the decision be made not to fully fund the schools by providing the additional revenue. And the first thing we would do is we would, because we have to, provide through one-time funding for the private day programs for students with IEPs. And additionally, we would provide additional funding for textbooks. Those are things we just cannot do without, that are absolutely vital to and critical to our mission. Again, the areas that we did look at potentially expanding or growing, if there is any in this budget, are in the PYP coordinator position, the athletic materials and supplies, and then also parent resources and the engagement specialist. Those would be the places that we actually would cut, and those would be the equivalent of about $189,000 in those two positions, and then that material account to get us to the $347,000. Now, I want to say I see some really nice opportunities ahead. When I think about this budget, Ms. Michael and I were talking before the meeting, and I didn't think I would ever say this about this budget, but it's actually a nice budget. It's a pretty good budget. And part of the reason that it's a good budget is because we're really close in terms of the amount of money necessary to fully fund our budget. And the opportunities that I see that potentially can offset this delta of $347,000 that are really within our grasp in many ways, depending on how things break, is one, healthcare. We always have to estimate a 10% increase in healthcare, and there are years where healthcare costs don't go up 10%. So we've built that into our budget for a 10% increase, but if it doesn't come in at 10%, whatever comes in under that 10% is money that can also help offset this $347,000. Another way that we could potentially bring this delta down is if the growth in the city over the next quarter increases. There have been years in the past where at the end of the budget, we have found out, you know what, there's a little more revenue than we thought there was going to be. So that may be another opportunity for us if that happens again. The third is we're following very closely legislative action on the support cap. We learned today that taking the support cap off that we've talked a lot about made it out of committee 5-3. 5-3 indicates there's some headwinds ahead of us, but it did make its way out of committee, and there's going to be a bill on the floor of the legislature to get rid of the support cap. If that support cap is voted on, we would get more money from the state, which would be a possibility that could also drive down that delta of $347,000. Another option, I certainly won't speak or even suggest to speak for our council colleagues, but knowing that the amount is $347,000, perhaps the council would consider a 0.5 special assessment for schools that could sunset in 2 years as a possibility. Or another option could be that we revisit the revenue share for this year only, and perhaps instead of a 50-50 split, maybe there's a different split so we pick up that $347,000. So there's a lot of different ways that we think we can get there. But we're not there yet, and it's going to continue to take conversation, it's going to take advocacy, and it's going to take work on all our parts to sort of make it happen. But the good news is the delta is much, much smaller than we thought it was going to be, particularly when we came together for the first time in December. So in closing, Virginia mandates that I provide to you a needs-based budget, and I hope that I've done that this evening. This budget does reflect our highest priorities and the needed investments to support our students and is representative of our collective needs as a school division. Yes, our request does exceed organic growth for the first time in 6 years. But again, we've been planning for this growth, and now we just need to make sure that we get the resources necessary to take care of our kids inside the building. Overall, this budget does represent a 7.4% increase over last year. And the reason for that additional percentage is because we're including state revenue in there as well. So it's local revenue and state revenue ultimately results in a 7.4 increase. So tonight we're asking the school board to consider this thoughtful and needs-based budget. We're asking the city council to take a hard look at our needs based on our growth, and ultimately asking both elected bodies to continue your work together to keep our field of dreams great. Before I share my final slides, I just want to say one of my favorite actors in the movie The Field of Dreams is James Earl Jones, of course, who plays Terrence Mann. And you might remember at the end of the movie what Terrence Mann does. He steps over the line and he becomes part of the team that's on the field and is no longer on the sidelines of the Field of Dreams. It's a little bit of an analogy to me, or metaphor in some ways, in that this is my last budget that I'll get a chance to present to you all. I feel really good about it. And when you adopt the budget to become the school board's budget in March, I will then step over the line and I will become one of the players on the field and a parent in the community and watch what happens with the budget while I'm still here. So with that, let me just share with you the preliminary budget calendar. The next big action for all of you is the adoption of the advertised budget, and that happens on March 11th, and that will be an important date. There will be work sessions between now and then that happen that will all be focused on the budget. Which leads me to my last slide that I want to take just a second to talk about. And this is really more about budget questions. Some of it's a reminder for our former school board members. Some of this might be new for our new school board member. And that is that we are absolutely committed to making sure that we answer all of the budget questions that come to us. So what we ask is that each of you submit your budget questions in writing. Submit them to me with a copy to the chair and to the vice chair. I will take those, and Kristen and I will work together to fan those out to the appropriate folks that need to answer those questions. And from there, we will catalog those by number and provide those to you at work sessions. So last year, I think we had somewhere around 54 budget questions. Maybe the year before we had 50 budget questions, but we end up cataloging them by number so that we can always refer back to them. So if you wouldn't mind, as you're thinking about your questions, to submit those in writing so that we can put those together as part of our catalog. And so with that, let me just wrap up here and just say that, we have worked on your behalf very diligently to craft a budget that reflects what we believe are the school system's greatest needs collectively. We're super grateful for the support that the school board and the city council have always given to us to support our students, to support our staff, to support our schools, and ultimately to support our community. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation and just say that tonight really is a presentation, but I'm certainly happy to answer any high-level questions you have, but detailed questions we would prefer to take kind of in that vein of questions that we'll work through at each of the school board work sessions. And so thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll turn it back to Chair Gould, and I'll stand here and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Noonan.
Nobody's ever clapped for me for a budget before.
No, and the clapping obviously is for this budget, but I think we all recognize the years of the budget process that you have helped create while you've been here in terms of the positive relationships that you've developed with your counterpart, Wyatt Shields, and also with the city council and the school board, trying to make sure that we are walking through this process that many localities experience with a lot of animosity and a lot of gamesmanship, and you've set us into a culture where we try to work together, we try to partner with each other in terms of the city council, and we try to do this in terms of what's best for the schools, what's best ultimately for our students, and reflect the values of our city. So we appreciate the years that you've been able to do this and put us on the right path. So I think I'm speaking for maybe more people in the room, but that's probably why some of the clapping also, we're in a good place. So thank you very much.
Keep it boring.
Yes, keep it boring. Sorry, Nick. Okay, and obviously, huge thank you, Ms. Kopik, Ms. Michael. You're going to be hearing that every single meeting. But for the members of the public, the process that we go through, the transparency, the question and the organization of how we do this is not just organized for us, but really the public can pull in, jump in, find out where their questions are going to be asked. The detail of all the budget that Dr. Noonan presented is going to be available for the public. Mr. Brett has a page that he's created for the budget for 2025, or 2026 actually. And so this process is continued. We always hear great positive compliments about how you all do this for the public. And so we're looking forward to being navigating this with you all. So with that, I think Dr. Noonan, you appreciate the last slide about the process. So as you said, just to say it back to you, we're going to ask kind of high-level questions, but to make sure if there's any detailed questions, we're going to email you so then we can start to capture that in that formal process, and we'll start that organic document of numbered questions. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes,
that
thank
sounds
you.
good. Okay, with that, I'll open it up to fellow colleagues. Ms. Silverman?
Thank you, Dr. Gould. And Dr. Noonan, thank you very much for this presentation and to your team for this tremendous effort once again. I have a couple questions. Well, I guess questions. One is on the CBA. I really appreciated your comments that the CBA is not the culprit, for lack of a better term, or the cause of having some sort of budget shortfall. As you said, we've tried to do those exact things in every single year that you've been here, and I know that I really appreciate that. I'm sure the teachers and staff really appreciate that. If we can just dig a little bit deeper on that topic, just so the people understand really why that's true. What does the CBA require us to do contractually?
There are a number of things that
Financially, on just the raises in COLA.
Step and COLA.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the CBA, we negotiated, and to be honest, I mean, I'll just say it out loud, it was sort of low-hanging fruit, right, to be able to give a step and a cost of living adjustment to our employees, because we've always done it. With the exception of the very first year I was here 7 years ago, we could only do a COLA, but we've done a step and a COLA for the last 6 years. And the way in the CBA it's written is that everyone gets a step, and then everyone gets a cost of living adjustment that is aligned to the CPI, Consumer Price Index, based on the October 15th date, which is also the date that they take it for Social Security.
Great. So, so you've done that except for minus your first year here, every year that you've been here, that has been the case. So it would have happened, and that's not the cause of this shortfall or lack of $350,000.
No, not at all. In fact, we've actually done it. We haven't tied the cost of living adjustment to the CPI previously. This is the first year we're doing that, and because inflation has gone down, the CPI actually has gone down. So this cost of living adjustment, while it's in line with the what's happening economically in the community, actually represents in some ways a lower cost of living adjustment than we've provided in the past over a couple of years.
And secondly, explain what neighboring jurisdictions are doing. Are they also giving steps and COLAs, and is ours, even if we weren't contractually required, would we? And even if we weren't just doing the right thing, we would kind of have to do it in order to stay competitive. Is there truth in that statement?
There's 100% truth in that statement. I can't tell you what my colleagues are doing because we're one of the first jurisdictions to come out publicly with our budget. I will say that they haven't publicly come out. We have had some behind-the-scenes conversations. I don't want to break the confidentiality of my colleagues. But when I suggested that this 5% increase, which is the cost of living, and the step together is going to be middle of the road, it's going to be middle of the road. I think we're going to see some jurisdictions that are giving upwards of 8%, and we're going to see some jurisdictions that will be giving closer to 3%.
Okay. And finally, I do want to go back to the tax cut that we received as a community, the property tax cut. And that was about a $400,000 saving, a tax cut that collectively that the city realized. And so we would have gotten half of that amount. Is that correct?
That's
about
correct.
$200,000. So that a lot of that money would have really covered this delta that we have in our budget and our needs. Is that right?
That's a great question. There are three things in the budget that we were trying to fund last year that didn't end up becoming permanently funded. One was the ESOL position that we continued with one-time money that we're asking to make permanent this year. The second is the school counselor position, which was funded with one-time money that we put in this year's budget to make it permanent, and then the PYP coordinator position, or PYP coordinator position at the school site. Had we received that $200,000, we would have been able to take care of a lot of that.
Okay, great, thank you.
And that would not have ended up in this year's budget, to your point.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Silverman. Vice Chair Tice?
Yes, I just had a process question, just to make sure that the board understands what is most productive for you and your team. What is a comfortable deadline for submitting budget questions prior to a work session?
Thank you for asking that question. We really would appreciate getting them on Wednesday or Thursday, the week before the work session. Anything after Thursday, we bump up against the weekend. It's just really hard for us to get to. So, but we'll let you know if we get a question that's particularly complicated, needs more time. We certainly will communicate that with you. But by and large, if we have them on Wednesday or Thursday, we can turn them around by the work session on Tuesday.
Great, thank you. That makes perfect sense. And just, I know we have one new board member and a couple have only done this one time. So if you think of a question after that Wednesday or Thursday, it's fine to still submit it, but it might not get answered until the following work session or budget session. Is that
100%.
right? Okay.
Yep. Please feel free to submit them. We'll answer, unless it's a phone call, unless it's something that just doesn't maybe make sense, and give us a little latitude too. We might reword it just a little bit to make sure it's really super clear. But ask away, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tice. Other questions, reactions? Ms. Sherwood?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Noonan, for this presentation. It was really helpful, and I am very grateful for all the work that you and your colleagues have put into putting this together. As the newest person here, I have lots of questions, but I'm just going to ask for now one that came to mind is, I don't know if you can talk a little bit about the one-time funding that you referenced on slide 34. Where is that usually, where does that come from typically?
Let me go back to slide 34. So the one-time funding is typically considered carryover money. It's money that has fallen out of the budget from the prior year through either position slowdown. We'd never put a slowdown on a position, but let's say we don't fill a position for 2 months because we don't have a good candidate. That money that may have been captured during that 2 months goes into a pot that can be used. If we have savings from a utility or we've been able to get a rebate from something, we end up with year-end balance. And then the other place that we end up with year-end balance is through our revenue sharing agreement when we do the end-of-year closeout with the general government. As you all may recall, we do typically in the November timeframe get some amount of money that's our portion of the year-end balance. So this year we received about $800,000 in year-end balance that can be used for a variety of different purposes.
Any questions, reactions? Any points of clarification for process? We all have the binders. We appreciate that. That is going to go online. It's already there.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the public, we do have these 3-ring binders. You're going to have the electronic version. You're not going to be able to have a printed version, but yes, you can get
There'll
that
be one
access.
in the central office if somebody wants to come by and look at the 2-inch 3-ring binder.
Okay.
That's totally fine. But every single resource that's in that binder will be online on the budget page.
For the public. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Henderson.
In the binders in this context, always there's contingencies of things that come up that we don't anticipate. Can you explain a little bit about how you budget for those contingencies and where that shows up?
Yeah, it's a great question. The carryover money that I was just describing to Ms. Sherwood is sort of our savings account, if you will. We do try to maintain, we have sort of a cap of 2.5% of our budget is sort of what we can carry over and feel good about. That is typically one-time money. So if there is something that comes up that's a contingency that we can spend one-time money on, we will use the one-time money. If there's a contingency that comes up that requires continued payment, let's say we need another teacher because our growth went up more than what we anticipated, we do carry a small balance in what we call our, it just slipped out of my head, staffing reserve. If there's a need for an additional teacher or something like that. And then if in this budget you feel like there's a contingency that you feel like you need to fund, our request would be if you have something else you want to fund, give us an equal or equivalent cut from somewhere and just let us know where you would recommend that money comes from. And then you all can kind of debate the merits of that. Does that answer your question?
So perhaps this will help. Inside the book that's posted online and in your binder, there are page numbers on the bottom of each page. And in the section on the school operating fund, which is in section 6, just called operating fund, at the end of that, there's a chart or a table called operating fund revenue and expenditures by object. And what that does is it groups both revenue and expenditures by their type. And when you look at contingencies, you're going to see contingencies in revenue and expenditures. So the expenditure contingencies that Dr. Noonan was just speaking about are on that chart on page 196, and that section or that category is called transfers and reserves, and that's where you'll find contingencies budgeted.
That's what I meant to say.
Thank you.
Great questions. Anything else from the board in terms of process or procedure going forward? Okay, well, it seems like we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We're excited and excited to work with you all on this. We know that there's been a lot of work. Just to remind the public, this process started in August,
Yeah,
September.
September.
So, and this was at the school-based, and it rolled up, and obviously to thank all the folks on the left side, especially the school leaders and the central office that hear a number of these requests, and you probably continue to hear these requests from your staff. And especially on a week of Principal Appreciation Week, we do appreciate you all staying here till 8:15 on a Monday night. You guys are troopers to hang in there. And we really look forward to seeing what you all need to try to support your schools, support your teachers, support your staff, and we really appreciate you contributing to this process. So thank you very much.